Hi, I'm Darren and welcome to New Factory Classics. Today we're going to break down Independence Day. July 2nd, an alien spacecraft heads past the moon towards Earth. A bunch of sensors go off in a research facility and a man gets confused when they go off. Why he took a job in a test facility searching for aliens when he himself doesn't believe in aliens is a confusing idea in the first place. The Pentagon immediately gets word to the president, and I'm just glad that the Americans found it first, that way we can plant a flag in them. David is a genius but lazy. He's amazing with computers, but unfortunately he just would rather work for the cable company. Ever since his wife left him, he just focuses on playing games with his dad and kinda sulking his way through life. Russell, on the other hand, is a raging alcoholic who's a crop duster that lives in an RV with his children. Russell spends his days drinking, crop dusting all the local farms, and talking about that one time he was abducted by aliens. Well, you can't be a drunk pilot forever. You may just crash, or maybe even save the world. The president calls his Joint Chiefs to discuss what to do about this alien space object in the sky. The object is slowly splitting into smaller objects that are going around to different parts of the planet. Immediately, different members want to blow the spaceships out of the sky. The warmongering is one of the most realistic parts of this movie. The first spaceship enters the atmosphere and goes over the city of Baghdad, which, as you know, in the year 1996, Baghdad was the most important city on the planet. A giant spaceship the size of a mountain has entered our atmosphere and it's covered in fire, and for some reason the Air Force decides to send a plane out to greet it. Well, unfortunately that giant mountain that's on fire is on fire and destroys the airplane. While the rest of the world is freaking out about the alien invasion, David is trying to decipher some sort of code that's disrupting all the cable. It's a code that's shrinking over time for some reason and will actually disappear in about 7 hours. Meanwhile, my Comcast guy can't even figure out how to set up wireless cable in my bedroom. Russell gets made fun of by the local Hillbillies for having been abducted by aliens 10 years earlier. Well, they picked a really hilarious and ironic day to make fun of somebody for believing in aliens. The spaceships arrive in the United States and park themselves in Washington, D.C., New York, and L.A. And now finally Will Smith's character is introduced, Captain Stephen Hiller of the U.S. Marine Corps. He lives with his girlfriend and her son. Of course, this movie is fiction because he lives with a woman that actually likes him. David tells his boss to get out of town. This code is going to recycle and end in the next 6 hours, and he believes that they will be attacking Earth at that point. And Harvey Fierstein has one of his trademark reactions where he's very calm, as he's known for. Jasmine, Hiller's girlfriend, is mad that he's being recalled to El Toro. She wanted him home for barbecue on July 4th. David and his father are heading to Washington, D.C. from New York. They need to warn the president of the code that he found. Now, David's ex-wife actually works for the president. In fact, she left him in order to have a job with the president. But this is not about getting back with his ex-wife, I swear. This is about saving lives. When arriving at El Toro base, Captain Hiller discusses with his best friend how he wants to work for NASA and eventually fly a rocket into space. His actual proposal ring for Jasmine falls out of his locker, but he can't marry Jasmine. Jasmine's a stripper, and NASA would never let anyone be a pilot of a spacecraft if their wife were a stripper. Yes, she may be a stripper, but she's a dedicated stripper. It's July 2nd, and there's an alien invasion. There's no one even watching the stage, and she's up there on the pole trying to make some dough. Frankly, she seems like a better option than NASA anyways. I'm sorry, how was NASA actually stopping the alien invasion again? I would go with the stripper. David and his father arrive at the White House and they get his ex-wife to let them in, as it's that easy to let anyone into the White House during a national emergency. The president is conducting his first greeting mission. They're sending a helicopter with a bunch of lights over to the first spaceship and flash the lights at the spaceship as some sort of greeting. And just like that quiet kid in high school when you kept flashing a flashlight in his eyes, the aliens go ballistic and blow up the helicopter. Uh-oh, maybe it's time to actually escape the cities with the giant spaceships in them. These cities are about to get hit harder than the service industry in 2020. David and his father get to join the president on Air Force One. It was his idea to actually get them out of the White House before the countdown ended. The countdown clock hits 0, and the giant spaceships end up blowing up New York, LA, and Washington, D.C., which is overall a net benefit for the United States. Jasmine, her son, and their dog end up somehow escaping the blast in LA by hiding in a tunnel emergency exit. For some reason, the fire just flies right on by, eating up all the oxygen, but not the oxygen in the emergency exit. Well, I'll tell you this movie gets one factual inaccuracy, and that's it. Everything else in this movie is completely accurate in how it would go down. July 3rd, the ruins of New York are shown, including half of the Twin Towers still standing, implying that an alien invasion and attack did more to prevent 9/11 than the Bush administration. Beyond his regret for not evacuating those three major cities, the president also finds out that his wife did not escape in her helicopter before the attack went off in LA. But this is the sort of decision-making that you should expect for somebody who's president who hasn't been alive for over 8 decades. Captain Hiller and the other men of the El Toro base end up getting into their fighter jets and starting the counterattack against the aliens. Hiller's team takes their first rocket shot at the alien spaceship, but apparently it has some sort of force field, and our weapons do absolutely no damage. Even worse, a bunch of alien fighter jets come out, and it's time for a dogfight. Hiller and his best friend end up leading a duo of fighter jets through the Grand Canyon, trying to escape their attack. And while Hiller's friend ends up dying, Hiller actually gets an alien spacecraft to crash into the side of the Grand Canyon, disabling it. He may have lost 100 of his comrades and his best friend and destroyed part of the Grand Canyon, but he knocked out one spacecraft, so it's time to consider that a win. While discussing whether or not to actually nuke the aliens, somebody brings up the fact that maybe we already knew about the aliens existing a long time ago. What about Area 51? Well, Area 51's just a joke. It's just a hoax. Area 51 doesn't exist. Well, that's not quite true, says one of the advisors. But frankly, I always knew Area 51 existed. I remember the Area 51 raid. Escaping from the rubble, Jasmine, her son, and their dog end up finding a fire truck and picking up the other survivors of the LA blast. And they actually come across the president's wife who survived her helicopter crash. They put her in and end up heading towards El Toro military base. Hiller knocks out the alien that he pulled out of the spacecraft and ties it up in his parachute, dragging it across the desert. He comes across Russell and the rest of an RV army and tells them that he saw a secret base a few miles that way. While it might not be on the map, Hiller actually found Area 51, so he's heading in the same direction as the president. Air Force One lands at Area 51 and they are greeted by Dr. Oken. He's the head research person at Area 51. Dr. Oken himself looks like the kind of person that smells really, really bad, but you can't say anything to him because he's gainfully employed. It turns out the government really did find a crashed alien spacecraft in the 1950s. It was a scouting ship that was preparing for their invasion. Hiller, the alien, and Russell's RV army arrive at Area 51. They let him in because he has a live alien with him. And Oken couldn't be more excited. He gets to do testing on a live alien, and I'm sure this will go off without a hitch. Oken and his team set up to work on the alien. They end up trying to cut off its biotechnical suit so they can actually do some research on the alien's physical body. Once again, Oken looks like the kind of guy that used to pick up homeless people as a child and do the same experiments on them. The president's team shows up to watch the testing take place, but the entire room is filled with smoke and debris. The alien smashes Oken's body up against the window and ends up using it as some sort of puppet to talk to the humans. Then the alien uses its telepathy to take over the president's mind, causing him immense amounts of pain. Unfortunately for that alien, that glass is not bulletproof, and 6 military men unload their clips into the alien, freeing Dr. Oken and freeing the president from the telepathy grasp. While being in the mind of the aliens, the president sees that these aliens are not to be bargained with. They're a scourge that go from planet to planet, taking over, using all their resources, and then leaving for the next one. He's done with this crap. It's time to nuke them. Hiller steals a sitting helicopter to go to El Toro base. He wants to see if Jasmine is there waiting for him. Now, a security guard tries to stop him, but he tells the security guard just to tell everyone that he hit him, which is crazy to think that Will Smith would just walk up to somebody and hit them for no good reason. The nuclear strike takes place over the skies of Houston, Texas, and unfortunately, the alien ship takes no damage. A truly devastating blow for Houston, Texas, which normally only gets destroyed every 3 years by a hurricane. Hiller finds his girlfriend, her son, the dog, and the president's wife waiting outside of El Toro military base. The First Lady is rushed to the hospital at Area 51. Thank God she's been saved. Now she can spend the rest of her life with her husband and be safe. And by the rest of her life, I mean the next 35 seconds, because this entire storyline ends with her seeing her husband and dying immediately. July 4th. A drunken David stumbles into the research lab, kicking everything over, trying to destroy the Earth so the aliens don't invade. He's pissed about the nukes over Houston. He's pissed about the alien invasion. He's pissed that his ex-wife still doesn't like him. His father tries to calm him down, tell him to get off the floor, or he could get a cold. A cold, you say? This idea inspires David to create a virus to destroy all the aliens. Yes, he just needed inspiration to create a virus to upload to the alien spacecraft and disrupt all their security defenses. Just to be clear, David is the smartest being in the entire galaxy. He just needed inspiration. And the plan is simple. You just take the alien spacecraft from the 1950s, you fly to space, you upload the virus disseminates to all the other spacecrafts around Earth, you nuke the mothership, and then all the other spacecrafts will get destroyed by all the armies around the world in a 5-minute period. So they send the battle plan out to all the other surviving armies throughout the planet. Time to take down all those battleships once the mothership is destroyed. There's one notable problem. Area 51 has plenty of fighter jets, but they need some pilots to fly those jets. Well, one notable volunteer is Russell, the drunken crop duster. So it's time for him to get sober for the first time in 10 years. An hour or two of coffee should make him ready to fly a fighter jet. Before their flight to space, though, Hiller and Jasmine get married, with David and his ex-wife being their witnesses, and they even hold hands, realizing they may still have some love there. The main thing I want to get to you boys is if your ex breaks up with you, just show up at her job. Tell her you're there to save the world, and when you do so, she'll fall back in love with you. Before the battle begins, the president steps up and gives one of the greatest movie speeches of all time, talking about how the world will unite to fight their common enemy, and today is our Independence Day. Hiller and David blast off into space. It looks like Hiller did get to live his dream of flying into space. So take that, NASA. I'm glad your headquarters was blown up with the Houston nuke. They get pulled right into the center of the mothership. I'm assuming for some sort of diagnostics, as the ship has been missing for over 40 years. David easily uploads the virus to their system, somehow knowing how their interface was going to work, and it disseminates immediately to all the battleships on the planet. Now the president can lead his team in the air to fight the battleship above Area 51. They do some small damage to the side of the ship, but they realize they need to take out the main weapon in order to take out the rest of the ship. Now the only person with a missile left is our drunken pilot, Russell. Unfortunately, his final missile jams and he won't be able to shoot it off. The newly sober Russell looks down at the picture of his 3 kids for the first time, clearly, in the last 10 years. He looks back at the spaceship and realizes what he has to do. And so Russell, the drunken crop duster, saves the United States by crashing right into a battleship. David and Hiller are locked in the center of the mothership, and they have no way of escaping. Though they do have one final thing up their sleeve, a nuclear missile themselves, and they shoot it right into the center of the spaceship. They zoom out of the spaceship as quickly as possible before it explodes. The mothership is destroyed completely by the nuclear blast. They themselves end up crashing into Earth, but are greeted as the world heroes they are. For now, not just the USA, but the whole world can celebrate Independence Day. And now I have seen it, so you don't have to. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you, and happy 4th of July.